Chapter 2058. When night fell on the ground, in the bottomless underground city, in the camp of the Loki clan, the atmosphere also became a little quiet. Some of the Loki's members were responsible for patrolling and keeping watch, making the entire Loki's camp feel heavily guarded. However, compared to the time during the day, the atmosphere now was actually more relaxed. Because, during the daytime, although the Loki's camp was heavily guarded, there were no level 1 adventurers in the camp. Now, the level 1 adventurers of the Loki's clan had all returned to the camp, making everyone feel a little relieved. Naturally, the atmosphere was not as tense as it was during the day. Yes. Noah and the others returned to the camp. Not long ago. After completely conquering the unreached 59th floor, Finn didn't act rashly. Instead, he gave the order to return to the camp and end this expedition. No one objected to this decision. Although there were still some materials in Noah's gift card that could support them in conquering another floor, the whole day of conquering had already made everyone physically and mentally exhausted. That's the part that couldn't be recovered by items. Moreover, a filthy fairy appeared on the 59th floor, and no one knew what would happen on the next floor. Finn thought that they shouldn't take risks at this time. This expedition has achieved its goal, and they can't ask for more. Of course, AIC was one of the reasons why Finn made such a decision. Everyone could see it clearly. After encountering a filthy fairy, and being pointed out by Asher that she was a fairy, A's emotions were greatly shaken. Under such circumstances, Finn made the judgment that it was not suitable to continue the exploration and ordered them to retreat. Because of these two reasons, no one had any thoughts of retorting. So, everyone began to retreat to the floor where the camp was located, while picking up the magic stones and dropped items that were left on the previous floor, and returned to the camp with a full load. In this regard, the members who stayed in the camp were quite relieved and felt quite happy. On the other hand, the clearers who broke the record of reaching the floor had a gloomy expression. After putting down the luggage in their hands, they all returned to their respective tents. Noah was no exception. In a tent, Noah was lying on the bedding on the ground. He looked up and fell into his own world of thoughts. At this time, Noah had already suppressed the circulation of the energy in his body and transformed again to hide his true identity. Bert gritted his teeth at Noah's behavior, but under Finn's instructions, he expressed his displeasure that he wouldn't expose Noah's true identity. After all, in that case, the one who would suffer would definitely not be Noah, but Loki's clan. Bert would not do such a thing as harm to others and himself. However, the werewolf's attitude toward Noah had obviously worsened. However, the reason Noah was lying in the tent in a daze was not because of Bert, but because of AIC. Immortal Essence. In this trip to the underground city, Noah had seen a lot of the mysteries and dangers of the labyrinth that he didn't have the chance to see before. He even met a filthy immortal essence, which was very exciting. However, Noah didn't expect that under such circumstances, AIC's identity would be revealed. If that girl is a fairy, then the reason why I could vaguely feel the presence of a filthy immortal essence and had the same reaction as Ashtar and Athena. Noah thought bitterly. But, if that girl is really a fairy, then I should be able to sense it. Noah originally had the ability to sense things that others didn't have. Coupled with his keen intuition, if AIC was really a fairy, then Noah would be able to recognize her at first glance. This wasn't something strange. In fact, even if it wasn't Noah, almost anyone in this world could recognize a fairy. This was because fairies were the avatars of gods. In this world, although the gods had sealed their powers, even if they only had the power of a mortal, they would still emit some divine aura to let others understand their identity as gods. Naturally, fairies who were known as the avatars of gods were in the same situation. If a fairy appeared in front of people, they would definitely be able to recognize her. However, Noah didn't sense the presence of a fairy on AIC. Seeing the shocked expressions on Tiona, Tioni, Rifaya, and Bert's faces when they found out about this. It was likely that these people who spent all their time with AIC didn't know about this either. However, Finn, Riveria, and Gareth seemed to know something. This proved that even if AIC wasn't a fairy, she was still closely related to one. Otherwise, Astra wouldn't have suddenly pointed out AIC like that. Eulali's strongest swordswoman doesn't seem to be as simple and innocent as she seems. Just as Noah sighed with emotion, a subtle movement began to spread outside the tent. Noah returned to his senses, but he didn't even lift his head. Instead, he closed his eyes and said, "Come in if you want. If you want to come in, then come in. Stop pacing around outside." The commotion outside stopped instantly. After a while, Tiona, Tioni, and Rafia slowly lifted the curtain and walked in with mocking smiles on their faces. Looking at the group of young ladies, Noah opened one of his eyes and glanced over, speaking in an annoyed tone. "What do you want to say?" Tiona and Tioni exchanged glances before shifting their gazes to Rafia at the same time. Rafia blinked and didn't know what to do. Me. Tiona and Tioni nodded repeatedly, leaving Rafia to put on an expression as though she wanted to cry but couldn't. In the end, under Tiona and Tioni's silent pressure, Rafia took a step forward and stuttered. Mr. Noah, I'm here," Noah said with a half-smile. And? Rafia was speechless. She suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, I'm here to thank you." "Thank you?" Noah was startled. "Did I do something that you need to thank me for?" "Of course," Rafia said emotionally. "You've saved me a few times today. Now that you mention it, that does seem to be the case." Noah narrowed his eyes. "But I don't think you're here to thank me. You must have other motives, right?" The corner of Rafia's mouth twitched. Tiona and Tioni began to look at the sky as though it had nothing to do with them. This made Rafia have the urge to cry. Looking at the three clowns, Noah couldn't help but chuckle. "All right, don't think that I don't know why you're here." Noah sat up and cast his gaze on the three girls. "You're here to talk about AIC, right?" The three girls' faces brightened up. Yes. We're here to talk about AIC." Like a puppy wagging its tail at its owner, Tiona hurriedly leaped up and sat in front of Noah with a smile on her face. "Hey, little brother, is AIC really a fairy?" Seeing that Tiona had begun to ask questions, Tiona and Leafia hurriedly came over and sat around Noah. It was clear that they were also concerned about this matter. However, Noah wanted to say something. "You've known AIC for a few years. I've only known her for a few months. How would I know if AIC is really a fairy?" Noah sighed. "Besides, instead of asking me, why don't you ask AIC directly?" "Actually, we've already asked Miss AIC." Rafia's expression was rather gloomy. "But Miss AIC didn't seem willing to talk to us about it." "Yeah." Tioni curled his lips. "Every time we asked AIC, she kept silent and apologized to us." "Please, she didn't do anything wrong, so why should she apologize?" "It's simple," Noah said straightforwardly. "Because that lass treats you as her real family and feels guilty for hiding it from you." The three girls were speechless. At this moment, an emotionless, crisp voice sounded. "That swordswoman must be closely related to the fairy." Chapter 2059. That swordswoman must be closely related to immortals. When such a sentence echoed in the space of the tent, a burst of dazzling light blossomed in the same way. Tiona, Tioni, and Leafia's eyes were blinded by the sudden light. They cried out in surprise and subconsciously shielded their eyes with their hands. It was only after the light dimmed that Tiona, and Rafia finally noticed the light. A pure and holy silver-haired girl had appeared beside Noah. Tiona, Tiony, and Lefia's eyes lit up at the sight of the adorable silver-haired girl. In this current era, the various gods had all descended to the lower realms and mingled with the various races of humans. Compared to the gods, the immortal spirits were more legendary. This was because apart from goblins who could easily blend in with humans, immortals of all races had chosen to hide in the mountains and rarely appeared before humans. Things were precious when they were rare. This principle could be applied to immortals as well. In addition, in all kinds of myths and legends, immortal spirits had always played the role of the guidance and support of the heroes and the brave. Naturally, they had a stronger sense of legend. Not to mention, immortals also had the power to create miracles. It was as if they had the ability to develop mysteriously. They were born with the ability to do things that only the gods could do. In an era without the grace of the gods, immortals were the grace of heroes and brave people. Thus, compared to the gods that could be seen everywhere, immortals were naturally more noble and legendary. How could Tiona, Tiony, and Lefia's eyes not light up when a true immortal appeared before them? However, under such circumstances, Aster only faced the gazes of the three girls and said this emotionlessly. Although it's not pure, I can sense immortal blood flowing in that human swordswoman's body. Aster's words extinguished the excitement in the girls' hearts. Immortal blood flowing in her body? Lefia hurriedly asked. Then, what does that mean? Could it be that AIC isn't an immortal but a descendant who inherited their bloodline? Tiony frowned. That's impossible, right? Immortals can't have children. That's right. Immortals couldn't have children. As clones of gods, immortals played the role of guides and assistants. Their main duty wasn't reproduction. Therefore, immortal spirits would not give birth to children. There was no such thing as heirs. I've read in books that immortals can't have children. Tiona tilted her head and said. Little immortal fairy, did you make a mistake? Noah also turned his gaze to Aster, his eyes filled with questions. Regarding this, Aster only met Noah's gaze. Her beautiful face was as calm as an ancient well, but her pair of mysterious eyes started to sway. Master, you don't believe me. Undoubtedly, Aster's words carried no emotion. But the way she looked at Noah gave the impression that she had been wronged. No matter who it was, they wouldn't be able to give a cruel answer in this situation. Noah was no exception. Of course I believe you, Aster. Noah hurriedly said. I'm just thinking that since immortals can't have children, then why does AIC have immortal blood in her body? Tiona, Tiony, and Lefia nodded as if they were coaxing a child. They couldn't say that they doubted the authenticity of Aster's words. Fortunately, although Aster had lived for more than 1,000 years, she was still an innocent little girl. She didn't doubt Lin Li's words. You don't have to go through the reproductive stage to have the blood of the fairies. The fairies are a race that can perform miracles to a certain extent. Just like how I can become my master's sword by signing a contract with him, that female swordsman called AIC may have also received the miracle of the fairies due to some reason and obtained the blood of the fairies. Is that so? Tiona, Tiony, and Lefia were enlightened. Even Noah felt that this explanation was the best explanation for AIC's situation. If AIC was an immortal, then others should be able to recognize her immediately. The reason why they didn't notice it was because AIC wasn't an immortal, but because of some miracle that only immortals could perform, she received immortal blood. Therefore, AIC was able to sense immortals to a certain extent. The wind magic that the swordswoman used might be the power of the immortal Usan's blood. Aster even said. After using that magic, that swordswoman's combat strength increased by a lot. For a human to be able to use magic, it's already a little against the rules. For example, Chun-Ji's magic could only increase the level of one person, which was a violation of the rules. However, that was also because Chun-Ji was a descendant of the only magic race among the orcs, the foxmen. She could perform very special witchcraft, which was why she could awaken that kind of illegal magic. If there wasn't anything special about AIC, logically speaking, it was impossible for her to have a magic that could increase her attack, defense, speed, and all sorts of other aspects. It was impossible for her to have a magic that could substantially increase her strength and achieve an effect similar to leveling up. After all, other than intelligence, there was nothing special about the human race. So, AIC must have inherited the bloodline of a wind immortal, which allowed her to possess magic that humans don't have. Tioni nodded. If that's the case, then it explains why AIC's magic is so powerful. But, if that's the case, why didn't AIC tell us the truth? Tioni asked in confusion. Even if she inherited the bloodline of an immortal, it's not a bad thing, right? Or rather, to be able to inherit the bloodline of an immortal is definitely a noble and sacred deed. Leafia argued. Such a deed could even be recorded in the history books. Miss AIC isn't the kind of person who can't see the light of day. If that's the case, then it can only prove one thing. Noah lowered his head thoughtfully and said after a while. There's a secret behind AIC inheriting the bloodline of an immortal. Everyone fell silent. So did Noah. I should have thought of that. Noah smiled bitterly in his heart. How could a person like that not have a secret behind her pursuit of power and strength? Perhaps humans would unconsciously pursue power and strength. But, a person who would actively pursue power and strength must have some kind of reason. Ah. Tioni crossed her legs in frustration. In the end, there are still a lot of things that I don't understand. Tioni and Leafia smiled bitterly as well. As for Noah, he heard Athena's voice. If you care, why don't you just ask her? It was a simple sentence, but it went straight to the heart of the matter. It wasn't just Athena, even Aster looked at Noah and said the same thing. Master, are you going to look for that swordswoman? Noah didn't answer. Instead, he patted Aster's head. When Aster revealed a comfortable expression, he looked at Tioni, and Leafia and asked. Where's AIC now? Tioni smiled. Leafia raised her brows and didn't say anything. She told Noah unwillingly. At the edge of the camp, on the edge of a boulder that faced the vast forest, a golden-haired, golden-eyed girl stood against the wind, gazing into the distance. Her pair of crystal-clear eyes were unfocused, falling into a state of absent-mindedness. Who? A gentle breeze blew past, lifting up AIC's skirt, causing her long, light golden hair to sway like silk. If it weren't for the lack of a starry sky in the underground city, the girl who stood facing the night sky would be as beautiful as a painting. As a matter of fact, even without the night sky, this scene still attracted the attention of many patrolling guards in the campsite. They almost revealed an intoxicated expression. Under such circumstances, no one was willing to approach and disturb this picturesque scene. Only one person came out of the tent and slowly walked towards AIC under the watchful eyes of the patrolling guards. Chapter 2060. Perhaps it was the sound of footsteps behind her that woke her up from her absent-minded state. She turned around and looked behind her. When she saw the full appearance of the person, AIC could not help but be startled. Then, she lowered her eyes and acted like a child who did something wrong but dared not admit it. When he saw AIC in such a state, Noah moved his feet lightly and also came to the edge of the cliff. He gazed into the distance and softly said these words. What are you thinking about? AIC did not answer. Instead, she lowered her head even more. After a while, she spoke in a low voice. I'm sorry. Why are you apologizing? Noah smiled bitterly. Tiona, and Leafia have all said that before, and you've been apologizing because you feel that it's wrong for you to hide something from your fellow clan members. However, although I've joined the Loki clan, I've only known you for a few months, and I've only joined temporarily. Even if you're hiding something from me, it's only natural. There's no need to apologize to me, is there? However, after hearing this, AIC, who had been keeping her head down, lifted her eyes and looked at Noah. She spoke without any consideration. It's not like that. This time, it was Noah's turn to be startled. He looked at AIC. AIC's expression did not change as she met Noah's gaze. However, the spirit in her eyes was much brighter than before. Then, AIC said so. You are also a very important companion. Her voice lacked emotion, but there was a sense of persistence that came from the bottom of her heart. The startled expression on Noah's face gradually faded, and his expression became a little gentler. Is that so? Noah reached out and patted AIC's head like before. Even so, you don't have to apologize to me. After all, everyone has secrets that they don't want others to know. Just like me, I'm confident that I have more secrets than anyone else. These words were exceptionally persuasive. Because it was something that everyone knew. If there was no shocking secret, how could Noah be so powerful? How could he be so special? How could he form a contract with a deity? Therefore, no one was more suitable than Noah to say this sentence. Thinking back to Noah's past in front of everyone that night, AIC knew that it was easy to talk about it, but there must be a lot of unknown dangers and processes hidden in it. Thinking until here, AIC suddenly felt that compared to Noah's past, the things that she was hiding were really not worth mentioning. When this thought rose in AIC's heart, she had an impulse. She had an urge to tell Noah about it. Under the impulse of this impulse, AIC could not help but speak. I am indeed not a deity. The hand that patted AIC's head. Under such circumstances, AIC lifted her head and met Noah's deep, pitch-black eyes. But the fairy's blood flows in my body. My mother's blood flows in my body. Mother. That was the name AIC gave to the owner of the blood flowing in her body. There was no doubt that she was an immortal. And deities could not give birth to offspring. But AIC still called her mother. This was because the blood of that immortal flowed in AIC's body. Father is a hero. AIC said softly as if she was pulled into the abyss of memories. A true hero, the kind that is even recorded in fairy tales. Upon saying that, AIC turned around and stood shoulder to shoulder with Noah. While looking at the forest in the distance, she spoke with a voice that seemed like it would disappear in the wind at any moment. In the past, Father was very active as a hero, and Mother was a deity that helped him. In other words, AIC's father was like the heroes and warriors before the gods descended, receiving guidance and help from a deity. During this process, the two of them formed a deep friendship and fought together, creating many brilliant achievements in battle. During this time, the two met a friend who had the same instincts. During this time, the two's relationship improved. And so, AIC was born. Of course, deities were not a race that could give birth. Then, was AIC really their biological daughter? Noah was not stupid enough to dig into this question. Noah only needed to know one thing. That was, AIC's father was a true hero, and her mother was a legendary fairy. So, AIC was not a deity, but the blood of a deity flowed in her body. That was no doubt the miraculous result of AIC's mother's deity. Although AIC didn't go into detail, it was just as Aster had said, AIC had a great connection with the fairy. But, Noah did not expect AIC's father to be a real hero. What about your parents? Noah could not help but ask. Are they not here anymore? Hearing this, AIC lowered her head and said in a low voice with a dejected expression. During the final battle, we were separated. Every hero's story would have an ending. And this kind of ending would often end with a great battle. The hero in the story and the villain in the story would have a final battle. This kind of development was often the most important part of the story. As for the final battle, would the hero emerge victorious and defeat the evil, or would the evil continue to grow stronger, or would the hero sacrifice himself in the end to save the world, and both sides perish together? That would depend on the author's mood. And AIC's father, obviously, did not have a perfect ending. I kind of hate myself at that time. AIC suddenly said. If it wasn't because I was too weak at that time, I might have been able to save Dad and Mom. Is that so? Noah closed his eyes. Is that why you have always been chasing after power? So, I am not a hero like Dad. AIC's emotionless face was covered with a layer of sadness. I am only becoming stronger for my own personal grudge. But, no one said that it is wrong to not become stronger for others, right? Noah smiled. And, even if it is right to become stronger for others, you are not in the wrong. Because, you are chasing after power for your parents, right? AIC was silent. After a while, AIC asked this question. What about you? Noah was stunned. AIC looked straight at Noah and asked with her usual calm tone. Why did you become stronger? AIC's words reminded Noah of the dream he had seen in his mind. That was the dream that he had been having since he was young. In the dream, Noah was standing in a pure white world. Around him were pieces of feathers. Some of the feathers were complete, some were missing. And those missing feathers had been transmitting their feelings to Noah in the dream. What kind of feelings? Sadness. Helplessness. They represented a world, and all they wanted was to be whole again. That's right. It was just like a child, pure and simple. Now that he thought about it, it was the reason why Noah had the urge to become stronger in the first place. Because Noah wanted to respond to them. In response to the pieces of incomplete feathers. So, Noah smiled and answered from the bottom of his heart. Someone asked me for help, and I want to help them, so I have to become stronger first. It was a simple sentence, but it perfectly explained the nature of Noah's pursuit of power. And this answer seemed to be out of AIC's expectations. AIC looked at Noah blankly until Noah looked at her. Then, she smiled. Is that so? AIC retracted her gaze and continued to look into the distance, leaving behind a sentence that was carried away by the wind. You are really something. Something. Noah sighed in a non-committal manner. Together with AIC, he looked at the endless sea of trees and said calmly and helplessly. Maybe I'm just being a busybody. Noah and AIC didn't say anything else after that. Both of them looked at the sea of trees in front of them silently, shoulder to shoulder, and let the silence spread between them. However, the atmosphere was not uncomfortable at all. Instead, it gave them a warm feeling. Chapter 2061. The next day, the members of Loki's clan began to get busy. The tent was untied. The bonfire was extinguished. The luggage was carried. The personnel were gathered. The temporary camp built on the boulder was dismantled at a speed visible to the naked eye, and gradually restored to a corner of the dungeon without any fatality. Only by careful observation could one find some traces of living people. After that, the members of Loki's clan began to retreat under Finn's command. In other words, this expedition was over. And the results were gratifying. Not only did they successfully reach the unreached area, but they also broke the record of the floors reached, and they even successfully conquered the 58th floor. The harvest was not small. After all, in the past, although Finn and the others successfully reached the 58th floor, they were sniped by the cannon dragon from the 58th floor when they stepped into the 52nd floor. Caught off guard, they fell directly to the 58th floor and lost all their items and equipment. In the end, they escaped with injuries and returned to the ground, saving their lives. In other words, although the previous record of the Loki clan was the 58th floor, it was not a serious strategy. It was only when they stepped into the 52nd floor that they were sniped and accidentally fell into a hole that was blasted open. They fell all the way to the 58th floor, which was why they obtained this record. This time, everyone seriously conquered the 58th floor, and even conquered the 59th floor. Not to mention other things, just the magic stones and dropped items as the spoils of war were a big harvest. In addition, Noah's gift card provided convenience, so that these spoils of war could be transported with ease, and not like before, because there was no way to carry them, they had no choice but to abandon them. This time, it was really a big harvest. If these spoils of war were sold, the pockets of Loki's clan would be rich. Previously, in order to deal with the new species of monsters, Finn spent a lot of money, not only to buy a large number of magic swords, but also to prepare the first-level adventurers with unbreakable attributes, plus a large number of materials. The cost was not a little bit. Therefore, if they could not make up for the losses in this expedition, then for a long time, the Loki clan could only tighten their belts and live a tight life. Fortunately, the harvest this time was gratifying. Of course, the harvest in terms of money was only one aspect. The experience points obtained by many members during the expedition was the most precious gain. Not to mention other things, the first-level adventurers of Loki's clan had gone through many bitter battles and encountered an extraordinary existence like the Fairy of Filth, so the experience points accumulated must be very high. Therefore, everyone was looking forward to it. They were looking forward to returning to the base camp and updating their ability points, how much they would grow. Driven by this mood, the speed of the adventurers of Loki's clan was not slow at all, at least faster than when they came. At the beginning of the expedition, it took Loki's people 5 days to reach the 50th floor. This time, it only took them 3 days to pass the 18th floor of the safety floor and return to the 17th floor. Such a speed could not be described as slow. However, the reason why they were able to return to the middle area so quickly was because they did not need to deal with monsters anymore, aside from the fact that their movement speed had increased. In the past, during the expedition, in order to accumulate experience points for the LV-3 and LV-4 second-level adventurers, after returning to the lower area, the first-level adventurers basically would not make a move. In this way, it would naturally affect the speed of their progress to some extent. This time, along the way, the LV-3 and LV-4 second-level adventurers almost had no chance to make a move. Because they were robbed of their kills. Ooh, 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 ooh. In the cave passage on the 17th floor, a group of minotaurs were holding stone axes high. Their eyes were red. While shaking the ground with their powerful footsteps, they rushed toward the adventurers of Loki's clan. The number of minotaurs was not small. At least, it was much more than the entire expedition team of Loki's clan. However, these monsters classified at LV-2, although they were known as the most representative monsters, were easy to deal with for Olali's top clan group, whose lowest level was LV-3. Even if the first-level adventurers did not make a move, it would be the same. However, before the basic members of Loki's clan could make a move, a golden figure rushed out. Swoosh! In the clear sound of footsteps, Aic suddenly pulled out the sword at her waist. A pair of gem-like eyes floated with a light full of momentum. Like a gust of wind, she rushed into a group of LV-2 minotaurs. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The silver rapier turned into a flash of light and the sharp sound of breaking the air, sweeping in all directions. Poochie, poochie, poochie. Along with the sound of ripping silk, the minotaurs were all severed at the waist. A large amount of blood splattered out from their rock-like waists, dyeing the entire ground red. The dying screams of the monsters resounded throughout the entire cave passage. The people of Loki's clan could only watch AIC, who was getting fiercer and fiercer in the group of monsters, and they were all speechless. "That's too violent," Tiona couldn't help but mutter. "It's been 3 days, and she's still so violent. What exactly happened to AIC?" "Yeah." Tiona could not help but sigh. Although it's much better than the lifeless appearance when she came back from the 59th floor, if this continues, AIC won't really become a violent maniac, right? AI. Miss AIC is not a violent maniac. Leafia felt the need to protect her idol's image, and argued strongly. Although she usually looks like she doesn't talk much, Miss AIC is actually gentler than anyone else. Gentler? Gareth laughed as if he did not dare to ask. Although that child is not as warlike as others think, if you want to talk about gentleness, it's a little subtle. From my personal point of view, I hope that child can be gentler. Riveria opened one of her eyes and said in annoyance. As a woman, it's not right to fight and kill all day. Why don't you say that to yourself too? Finn laughed bitterly. Well, you're a woman too. Don't worry so much. Bert did not think that there was anything wrong with AIC, and snorted with his arms crossed. If AIC can vent a little, those monsters can be considered to have died a worthy death. Vent. Indeed, vent. AIC seemed to want to get rid of the unpleasant memories caused by the filthy fairy incident, and had been continuously killing for the past 3 days. So, this could only be a way to vent. Carrying a huge backpack, Noah, who blended perfectly into the crowd of basic members like an onlooker, sighed in his heart as he watched AIC charge into the horde of monsters. If this can make her feel better, then it's indeed a good thing. However, Riveria's words were not wrong. A girl who could only vent her feelings through killing when she was in a bad mood was really a little tragic. Although AIC was the descendant of a hero and the orphan of a fairy, and looked like a female warrior at the top of the world in the eyes of others, Noah knew that this girl who was not good at expressing her feelings was just an ordinary girl. Thinking of this, Noah looked at AIC who was killing monsters and made a decision in his heart. You're back. In the central square where adventurers came in an endless stream, in front of the Tower of Babel, Tiona raised her hands high and cheered at the blue sky with a happy smile on her face. Stop. Tiona couldn't bear to look directly at her and shouted. It's so embarrassing. Not only did Tiona feel embarrassed, but everyone in Loki's clan also had an awkward look on their faces. Thanks to Tiona, almost everyone in the central square where the adventurers were coming and going turned to look at them, and began discussing among themselves. The people of Loki's clan are back. Could it be that the expedition is over? Then did they refresh the floors and reach the unreached area? Who knows? Similar conversations were constantly heard, making the adventurers of Loki's clan, who were used to others' gazes, feel somewhat uncomfortable. Under such circumstances, Noah raised his head and looked at the Tower of Babel behind him. The white-walled tower towered into the clouds as usual. However, near the top of the tower, a scorching gaze was cast on Noah's back as usual. Chapter 2062. As long as he was in Eulalia, Noah could feel the burning gaze on him almost all the time. That feeling was most intense when he entered and exited the Tower of Babel. By now, it was impossible for Noah not to know who the gaze was coming from. The goddess who coveted Noah did not restrain her gaze at all. She had been secretly observing Noah with a burning and unrestrained gaze, which made Noah feel quite uncomfortable. No matter who it was, if they knew that someone had been secretly watching them, it would be very unpleasant, right? What's more, the goddess' gaze was so unscrupulous, as if she wanted to swallow Noah whole, full of possessiveness and greed. For Noah, who was already sensitive, such an explicit gaze was naturally as uncomfortable as being pricked by needles. For this reason, Noah even thought of really rushing into the Tower of Babel, pulling out the infatuated goddess and teaching her a lesson. However, Freya had not yet touched Noah's bottom line. Moreover, Noah could not possibly forbid others from looking at him, right? Due to various considerations, Noah had been letting Freya do as she pleased. But maybe it's time to talk to the goddess. With this idea in mind, Noah met the burning gaze that was cast on him, and his eyes gradually flickered. It was unknown if she had comprehended something from Noah's performance. The beauty's explicit gaze trembled slightly, and then she gradually began to retract it. At this time, Finn and the others also noticed Noah's actions. "What's wrong?" Finn asked on behalf of everyone. "Is there something wrong?" "No." Noah withdrew his gaze and shrugged. "It's just a bored goddess who has been infatuated with me." Finn and the others were stunned at first, and then they all remembered. "I almost forgot," Gareth said as if he had suddenly realized something. "There's another goddess who has always looked at you differently. Goddess Freya." Riverio looked up at the top of the Tower of Babel. According to Loki, that beautiful goddess is only interested in the men she likes. Furthermore, she has an unusual hobby of collecting. She has always liked to collect children with thorough souls. In other words, you've caught the eye of the goddess of beauty. Tiona tilted her head. "I think he was courted by goddess Freya. You better keep your voice down. Don't let anyone hear you. Otherwise, you won't be able to hide your identity." Tioni shrugged. However, the goddess of beauty's love is indeed unrestrained. The Amazon women are already unrestrained enough, but goddess Freya is even more so. As far as I'm concerned, no matter if it's the goddess of beauty or the Amazon, the way they pursue love is too. Leafia groaned. Once the Amazons find a man they like, they will immediately capture him and bring him back. If it's a beauty, they won't even let go of his soul. It's really too scary, isn't that a good thing? Bert held the back of his head and said sarcastically. "It's quite an honor to catch the eye of a goddess. Furthermore, the way she pursues the male she likes suits my taste very well. Why don't I try to kneel down and lick her? That way, I can have a taste of the goddess." Bert's words made all the girls cast piercing glances at him. Noah, on the other hand, smiled indifferently and said this. "I don't hate being chased, but there's no need to pester me. Furthermore, I don't like women who are overly possessive and overly domineering. If you really want to chase me, you might as well just cook me a meal instead of watching me from the top of the tower." "Oh, oh, oh." Everyone suddenly exclaimed in amazement. "I see." Tioni nodded with a serious expression. "You're the kind of person who values this aspect, aren't you? Did you hear that? AIC. Tioni hugged AIC, who had been silent all this while, and said with a smile. "Do you like women who can cook for you with their own hands? Don't you want to give it a try?" AIC was stunned for a moment, and then her pretty face blushed slightly. Rifaya and Bert, on the other hand, flipped out. "Miss Tioni. Please don't make fun of Miss AIC. Stupid Amazon. Don't talk nonsense over there." Under Rifaya and Bert's furious glare, Tioni shouted, "So scary," and then threw herself into her sister's arms. Noah could only smile bitterly at this. Goddess Freya is indeed an opponent that cannot be ignored. Finn licked his thumb and narrowed his eyes. Although Loki and Beauty were old acquaintances when they were in the heavenly realm, I really don't know if their relationship is good or bad. Moreover, our clan's relationship with Freya's clan isn't very good. We can even be considered enemies. After all, Loki's clan and Freya's clan are known as the two most powerful clans in Eulalia. Gareth grinned. But, since ancient times, there has always been only one most powerful existence. Others are curious about who is stronger between Loki's clan and Freya's clan, but we have always been competing with each other. In the past, we have also had conflicts with Freya's clan more than once or twice. Riveria exhaled. This time, the person that the beauty goddess covets is in our clan. This will probably make the conflict even more intense, right? Everyone nodded in agreement. All right, you don't have to worry. Noah said without much thought. I can handle the beauty goddess myself. I won't implicate the clan. However, Noah's words attracted everyone's reproachful gazes. What's wrong? Noah was stunned. Why are you looking at me like that? Hearing this, everyone looked at each other. I know that you are very capable. Even if you are alone, you can still fight against a god, a clan, and even the entire Eulalia. I wouldn't be surprised. Finn sighed and looked at Noah with a serious expression. However, I want to tell you that no matter how strong you are now a member of our clan. Your matter is our matter. Don't ever say that you won't implicate our clan if you want to solve it by yourself. As Finn's words fell, everyone else's expression became extremely serious. There was not a hint of pretense. Even Bert, although he snorted coldly, did not refute Finn's words. Although the surrounding grassroots members did not eavesdrop on the conversation between the higher-ups, they understood the atmosphere and turned to look at them, showing that they were of one mind. As for AIC, her eyes were fixed on Noah. I've said it before. AIC said firmly. You are also a very important companion. Seeing that everyone from Loki's clan showed a serious expression from the bottom of their hearts, Noah looked at them calmly. After a while, he suddenly smiled. All right. Noah raised his hand in surrender. I take back what I just said. Only then did everyone's expressions relax. That's more like it. Tiona giggled and hugged one of Noah's arms. Since little brother is being pestered by a strange goddess, we can't just sit back and do nothing. That's right. Tioni hugged Noah's other arm with a smile on his face. This is also for AIC. For AIC. Noah blinked, not understanding what was going on. Why is it for AIC again? Tiona. Tiona. AIC's eyes were full of protest. Don't say weird things anymore. That's right. Rifaya also protested loudly. This has nothing to do with Miss AIC, right? Only this time, I have to agree with this little brat's point of view. Bert's pair of tails stood up as if he was enraged. Stupid Amazons. If you say anything strange again, I'll kick you. It was a pity that Tiona didn't fall for it at all. They continued to smile, which made Leafia and Bert reveal resentful expressions. Finn, Riveria, and Gareth watched this scene as if they were watching from the sidelines. They all felt helpless. All right, stop fooling around. Finn ordered. It's about time to go back. Yes. Tiona finally let go of Noah's arm. And so, the group left the central plaza in a grandiose manner. Tiona, do you want me to give you a massage? Riveria, talk to me. Leafia, your clothes are so dirty. Damn it, hurry up and take them off. Let's take a bath together. AIC. Don't ignore me. Loki, who was harassing the group of female members like a cannonball, had a flattering smile on his face, but it attracted the disdain of the group of female members. Loki, who was chased away, could only look for the male members with a dejected expression. He spoke weakly. Everyone, welcome back, we're back, Loki. Finn greeted Loki with an indifferent expression. There were no sacrifices in this expedition, and the harvest was quite good. It seems that the harvest was quite good. The powerless expression on Loki's face gradually faded. His eyes, which stared at the group of male members, began to show a calculating wisdom, and he smiled. Moreover, in addition to the harvest, it seems that something unexpected happened, right? His insight was astonishingly high. Although he usually only liked to harass cute girls like a wretched uncle, the existence in front of them was still a divine being. It was only at this moment that the group realized how astute the goddess named Loki was. I reckon this expedition was quite dangerous, right? Loki looked at Noah with a smile. It's really great to be able to rope you in before these children go on an expedition. Obviously, Loki had seen through the matter of who solved the crisis and the problem in the end. At this point, even Noah couldn't help but admire Loki. Compared to the pure, kind, and unscheming Hasti, as the main god of a clan, Loki was undoubtedly more outstanding. Of course, that didn't mean that Hasti was inferior to Loki. It was just that their natures as gods were different. As a pure and unsullied virgin goddess, Hasti excelled in love and care. She was like a spiritual pillar that gave the members of the clan great motivation. Loki, on the other hand, was an evil god known for her cunning. Rather than being a spiritual pillar, she was more inclined to directly participate in the matters of the clan. If Athena, known as the goddess of wisdom, had a clan in this world, then she would perfectly guide the clan to a bright path, right? So, it was just a matter of different natures. Thinking of this, Noah said so. Why don't you ask Finn about this expedition? I'm not the commander of this expedition, after all. After saying that, Noah directly moved in front of Loki and looked at her. But in this half a month, a lot of things should have happened to Hastia's clan. Find some time to tell me in detail. Leaving such a sentence, Noah turned around, waved his hand, and stepped up the stairs in the corner of the hall and walked up the tower. However, Rocky was not happy about it. That little guy only knows how to think about that shorty. Am I that bad? Loki's words made several level 1 adventurers of Loki's clan laugh. After returning from the expedition, the first thing everyone did was to take a good bath. In the dungeon, there weren't any good conditions for people to take a bath. Not to mention other things, even the female adventurers who loved cleanliness didn't even have a bath in the 50th floor of the dungeon. Only when they returned to the 18th floor did they have a lake for people to take a bath. But even so, after taking a bath, they could only wear the dirty clothes that had been dirtied countless times in the dungeon and didn't have a chance to wash them. Naturally, it wasn't that clean. So, after returning to the base camp, everyone took a bath first, changed into a new set of clothes, and then fell on the bed together and began to sleep. In the dungeon, even if there were companions in charge of keeping watch, no one would really be at ease to enter a state of deep sleep. Now that they were finally back home, the exhausted members of the expedition could finally have a good night's sleep. Therefore, everyone in the base camp, including Loki, didn't disturb the members of the expedition and let everyone have a good night's sleep. It wasn't until the next day that everyone woke up one after another and gathered in the dining hall to eat. Noah sat at the same table as before with the level 1 adventurers. During the meal, everyone chatted as they ate. Accompanied by the chatter of the adventurers around them, it was very lively. I'm done eating. Bert still looked unhappy as he finished his meal. Then, he turned his head and left his seat, heading out of the dining hall. Seeing Bert like this, the level 1 adventurers of Loki's clan looked at each other and smiled helplessly. That werewolf seems to have a worse temper after knowing little brother's true identity. Tiona pursed her lips. With such a weird personality, how could anyone like him? Anyway, in Bert's eyes, a powerful male is a kind of charm. Tiona ate her meal as if she was used to it. Although this theory isn't wrong, it's another matter if his personality is so annoying. Well, don't say that. Loki seemed to have come over to join in the fun. He chuckled as he pestered the girls. Although Bert isn't very likable, he's not a bad person. He's quite cute. Everyone laughed one after another. Noah was already used to it. He asked Loki casually, "Oh, right. By the way, has anything happened to Hestia recently?" Chapter 2064. In fact, it had only been half a month since Noah left Hestia's clan. Still, as a clan that was directly related to Noah, Hestia's clan would certainly be the center of attention even if they weren't caught in the abyss of trouble during the period when Noah committed the taboo of deicide. In that case, Hestia's clan's activities in the past half a month should have attracted a lot of attention. Who knew what would happen if they attracted so much attention? However, Noah and Loki had an agreement that he would help Hestia's clan in secret. Therefore, Loki should have paid attention to news about Hestia's clan. When Noah mentioned Hestia's family, the smile on Loki's face disappeared, and he started to grumble unwillingly. That Shorty's clan is doing well. No one is targeting them. Don't worry. I'm not worried. I just want to know the current situation of Hestia's clan, Noah said in an annoyed tone. Tell me. Don't just play dumb. Okay. Loki's tone began to become a little displeased. Nothing bad happened to Shorty's clan. Those gods know that you just came out to avoid trouble. It's not that you don't have any attachment to Hestia's clan, so no one is stupid enough to suddenly cause trouble for Shorty's clan. After saying that, Rocky continued. If you want to talk about what happened, then there is indeed one thing that caused a sensation among the gods. Oh. The level 1 adventurers of Loki's clan were all curious. What is it? Tiona was even more curious and couldn't wait to ask. Even your gods are shocked. What is it? It's that white-haired brat from Shorty's clan. I think he's called Belcrone. Loki curled his lips. After you started the expedition, Shorty updated the level record of her clan members in the guild. That white-haired brat has leveled up and reached LV2. Hearing this, everyone looked at each other in dismay. Looking at the crowd, Rocky snorted. You must think that there's nothing sensational about upgrading to LV2, right? Everyone nodded in agreement. To this, Rocky said so. Of course, there's nothing sensational about being promoted to LV2, but what if the white-haired little devil received God's grace only a month ago? 1 month. Everyone was surprised. Wait, Loki. Finn frowned. You're saying that Belcrone only took a month to promote from LV1 to LV2? That's right. Loki narrowed his eyes. Now, do you understand why this matter has caused such a sensation? The reason was simple. In current history, the fastest record for promotion from LV1 to LV2 was 1 year. This record was a miracle created by AIC. But now, Bale had broken this record. Compared with AIC, who took a year to upgrade to LV2, Bale's time to upgrade to LV2 was almost 12 times shorter. Promoted from LV1 to LV2 in a month and became a level 3 adventurer. How could such a thing not cause a sensation? Are you serious? Garrett said in surprise. Can he be promoted to LV2 in a month? It can't be wrong. Loki said very unhappily. Those meddlesome gods have investigated and determined that Belcrone only entered Eulalia more than a month ago, and at that time, he had not received any grace. He visited many clans, hoping to join them, but he was rejected. In the end, Shorty took advantage of him. Since even the meddlesome gods have intervened in the investigation, it should be right. Riveria put down the cutlery in her hand and frowned. I didn't expect AIC's record to be broken like this. I didn't expect it either. Tioni also seemed to be a little surprised. The last time when the little brother brought him into the middle level to accumulate experience, we had no idea that he had just received the grace for a month. Yes. Tioni turned her head and looked at AIC. AIC thinks so too, right? AIC nodded, but her expression did not change much, as if she did not care that her record was broken at all. Because AIC knew who gave her record to be broken. Thinking of this, AIC turned her head and looked in the direction of Noah. The rest of the people were also silent and looked at Noah without saying a word. Under the gaze of everyone present, Noah said with an innocent face, "Why are you looking at me like this?" Seeing Noah there pretending to be innocent, everyone was speechless. You can understand if you think about it, right? Leafia couldn't help but mutter. If it weren't for Mr. Noah, that new adventurer named Belle Crone wouldn't have been able to rise to LV2 so quickly. That's right. Loki swung his arm. Even my beautiful AIC used it for a year. How could that kid from God knows where break this record? Then you've underestimated Belle. Noah said indifferently. Although that child is still a little immature, he has great potential. In your words, the possibility of Bale is very high. All I did was give him a push. Even without me, it wouldn't take long for him to level up and break AIC's record. It wouldn't be strange for him to do so. After all, in the month when Noah left this world, Belle, from a newcomer who had just received the grace, had raised his ability value by several stages and almost reached the A stage of the all ability value. This proved that Belle was also very talented. Of course, the reason why he grew so fast was mainly because of Belle's early maturity skill. It was because of the early maturity skill that accelerated Belle's growth, and Belle could improve so quickly. Noah really just gave Belle a push. Even without Noah, Belle believed that it wouldn't take long for him to level up. In this regard, Loki and the others who didn't know Belle had a face full of doubts. Even AIC tilted her head thoughtfully. Well, it's fine if you don't believe me. Time will prove everything. Noah spread his hands. Don't be too surprised. Look at me, wasn't I just a newcomer who had just received the grace a few months ago? Compared to you. Only a fool would do that. Seeing everyone rolling their eyes in unison, Noah touched his nose bitterly and continued to ask. Besides Belle, is there anything else? It's not a big deal. Loki said perfunctorily with some disinterest. In addition to the white-haired brat leveling up, a newcomer joined Shorty's clan. It seems that it was because of you that the original member of Ista's clan was disbanded. But she's just a LV1 rookie. Her race is very interesting, a very rare foxman, and she's very cute. Damn it, why would such a cute girl want to join Shorty's clan? Obviously, Loki didn't know that Chun-Ji had an extremely illegal magic. However, Ista's clan was only disbanded, not disappeared. Many battle whores knew about Chun-Ji's magic, so this secret shouldn't be hidden. However, as Loki said, with the deterrence of the God Slayer, even if everyone knew about Chun-Ji's magic, they wouldn't dare to act rashly, right? They were afraid that if they couldn't do it openly, others would use underhanded means. There were definitely many wicked gods in this maze city. Just when Noah was lost in thought, Loki seemed to see through what Noah was thinking and shouted intentionally or unintentionally. Don't worry about Shorty's clan. No matter what, I promised you to take care of them and won't let those white-eyed gods mess around. Hearing this, Noah was startled at first, then smiled. Thank you, Loki. I'm just abiding by the agreement. Loki took a sip of the wine in his hand and stood up abruptly. Forget it, let's not talk about Shorty. Let's update the ability value. This time, you have successfully conquered the 59th floor. You must have gotten a lot of experience points. Maybe you can level up. Hurry up and update the ability value so that I can fight in front of Shorty. Hearing Loki's words, everyone smiled bitterly, but they were also looking forward to it. Can they level up? In other words, before this, Noah had never had a comparison and didn't know how difficult it was for other adventurers to grow. Now, looking at the ability values of Tiona, Tiani, and Rafia, Noah finally felt it was real. They had already traveled to the 59th floor of the unreached area, but Tiona's and Tiny's proficiency had not increased by more than 40. It was really sad. Because Rafia was a magic shooter, it was normal for her to increase less in the other 4 attributes. However, the increase in magic was only 1 stage, and compared to Noah's previous situation where he often jumped several stages, it was not even comparable. Of course, this was also because the basic abilities of the girls were already at Stage A and Stage B, which was extremely close to the highest level of Stage S, so it was more difficult for them to improve. Compared to Tiona, Tiny, and Rafia, Ace, who had just reached LV6 not long ago, had more proficiency. Ace Wallenstein LV6 Strength, I-30, I-53, Durability, I-39, I-48, Dexterity, I-58, I-86, Agility, I-57, I-92, Magic Power, I-45, H-159, Hunter, G Abnormal Resistance, G Swordsman, H Healing, I Magic Frowny Face Wind Spirit Rush, Additional Magic. Wind Attribute. Chant, Awaken. The overall proficiency of all ability attributes increased by more than 200. This was already considered a very high growth. Perhaps it was because AIC had single-handedly blocked the Filthy Fairy's super long chant and successfully used Crush Magic, which gave AIC a lot of experience points. After all, the level of the Filthy Fairy was at least LV7 or even higher. In terms of EXP, it must be very high for her to block the super magic of an enemy of that level alone. It's not so easy to reach LV6. Tiona said with some frustration. I still want to catch up with Ace this time. If we can defeat the Immortal of Filth, we might be able to rise to LV6, right? Tyagni shrugged. Unfortunately, that Filthy Fairy was defeated by Little Brother in 1 move. But if Mr. Noah didn't make a move, we don't know if we can defeat that Filthy Fairy. Rafia recalled the crisis at that time and couldn't help but feel a little scared. That Filthy Fairy is too powerful. Even if we fight to the death to defeat her, if the price is the sacrifice of people, then I'd rather not. Both Tyan and Tyan nodded. Even AIC agreed with the idea. In fact, at that time, if Noah used the double ability of the gauntlet to help everyone, it was not impossible to defeat the Filthy Fairy. However, in the end, Noah didn't let everyone take the risk. Thinking of this, Noah sighed helplessly. We were already very careful not to make a move, but in the end, we still couldn't hold back. In terms of the result, Noah saved the group of Loki's clan, but also made the group of Loki's clan lose a chance to level up. However, just as Rafia said, in the situation at that time, if Noah insisted on not making a move, then even if they could defeat the Filthy Fairy, Loki's clan might have to pay the price of sacrificing people, right? Noah still didn't want to watch this happen. Therefore, whether it was a good thing to make a move was still up for discussion. Oh right. Tiona looked at Noah. Little brother, how are you? AIC, Tyagni, and Leafia immediately turned to look at Noah. Noah smiled and presented the parchment in his hand in front of everyone. Noah Dole LV. 5 Strength, A, 846, I, 0, Durability, A, 868, A, 0, Dexterity, A, 855, A, 0, Agility, A, 873, I, 0, Magic Power, A, 842, I, 0, Mystery, H Magic Guide, I Swordsman, I Shatter, I Magic, Magic Cannon, Projectile Magic extremely malleable. According to the different chanting methods, the power and scale can be changed. Enhance permanent magic. Ability value is improved comprehensively. The degree is determined by the amount of spiritual power, magic power, consumed. Materialize, imitation magic. Only limited to imagination. When the imagination is too weak, the power will decrease and there is a certain chance of failure. Skills of protection from the world of permanent skill. Equal to luck. Events that have a direct relationship with luck will eventually lead to the most favorable result. Sure enough, he leveled up. Tiona, Tiny, and Rafia cried out at the same time. All the members in the queue turned their heads in astonishment. Leveled up. Is it Drake? I remember that Drake was already LV4 when he joined, right? In other words, Drake has leveled up to LV5. Really? Our clan tribe has another level 1 adventurer Mantis. Such a clamor made Bert, who was in line, speechless. Finn, Riveria, and Gareth naturally heard the news because they took the initiative to stay at the back. Suddenly, the entire central tower became lively. Chapter 2066. In this labyrinth city known as the center of the world, there were very few people who could be promoted to level 5. Thinking about Apollo's family, which was known as the backbone of Eulalia's backbone, their leader was only LV3. Think about Ishta's clan, which was one of the most powerful clans in Eulalia, but the leader was only level 5. Only clans like Loki's clan and Freya's clan, which were at the top of Eulalia, had many level 1 adventurers. However, even Loki's clan and Freya's clan did not have more than 10 level 1 adventurers in their clans. One could only imagine how important a level 1 adventurer was to a powerful family. Although Noah was just a newcomer, the group members were very happy that a member of their clan had become a level 1 adventurer. In this way, our clan's level 1 adventurers will not be less than Freya's clan. But Freya's clan has the valiant Otto. What are you afraid of? Our clan also has the leader, deputy leader, and Sir Gareth. But if the leader, deputy leader, and Sir Gareth all go to deal with the valiant, then who will deal with those level 6 adventurers in Freya's clan? What are you afraid of? We still have Miss A's. Yes. Miss A's is the strongest swordswoman. When she was level 5, she was much stronger than other level 5 adventurers. Now that she has reached level 6, it's more than enough to deal with 1 or 2 level 6 adventurers. I still think it's a little dangerous. All the members of Loki's clan thus lined up and discussed animatedly. In this regard, Finn, Riveria, and Gareth looked at each other. Sure enough, Gareth said with a sigh. Even the members of our own clan will compete with Freya's clan. It's understandable, isn't it? Riveria said matter-of-factly. The two clans have been taken out for a long time, so of course it will become like this. That's why we have to be careful. Finn turned his gaze to Noah, who was surrounded by a group of girls, and narrowed his eyes slightly. The fact that Noah has joined our clan probably can't be hidden from that beautiful goddess. Perhaps, the conflict between the two clans has really reached a critical point. As the leader of the clan tribe, when others were happy, Finn and the others had to keep their eyes open and be vigilant in times of peace. Otherwise, an accident might happen at any time and cause Loki's clan to fall from the altar. The girls who didn't know that Finn, Riveria, and Gareth were thinking so far ahead were still surrounding Noah and shouting. Damn it! Tiona hugged her own head with an incredulous expression. Not only did I not manage to catch up with AIC, but I was also caught up by little brother. I can't accept this. Just give up. Comparing yourself to him is a foolish thing to do, Tiona sighed. ALV, one who received a favor a few months ago suddenly became a LV5 first-level adventurer. This is absolutely incomparable. Ahahaha. Leafio laughed dryly as well. Only AIC looked at Noah with eyes full of envy. It would be great if she could have such a growth rate. Because of the excitement and enthusiasm of the party members, Noah, who was laughing in spite of himself, clearly noticed AIC's behavior, and his heart suddenly moved. Right, I still have to carry out the decision I made when I returned yesterday. Just as such a thought flashed through Noah's mind, the door to Loki's room was opened. Behind the party member who was holding a piece of parchment and had just finished updating his ability value. His face was full of happiness, and it was obvious that he had made good progress. Loki twisted his arm and complained with an aching back. As expected, there are too many people. We're tired too. Let's take a break for now. The long line of clan members let out dissatisfied cries, but were ignored by the capricious main god. However, Noah felt that Loki had come out at the right time. Hey, Loki, Noah spoke to the goddess whose back was aching. Do you have money there? What are you doing? Loki immediately covered his pocket with a vigilant expression. This is the little money I have for wine. Who are you trying to fool? Tioni directly exposed Loki's lie. You're always taking money out of the treasury to buy alcohol when you have nothing better to do. The leader even complained about it last time. It's true this time. Loki said with a wronged expression. Because of the purchase of supplies and equipment for the expedition, our finances are seriously in the red. For the past half a month, I've been scrimping and saving to save this bit of money for wine. Speaking of which, we haven't sold the things we obtained when we returned from the expedition, right? Tioni's eyes began to light up. I wonder if there's any extra bonus. In Loki's clan, after the harvest from every expedition was sold, except for the consumption needed for the operation of the clan and the inventory needed for emergencies, if there was any remaining, it would be taken out to the members of the clan as dividends. According to the contribution made in the dungeon during the expedition and the amount of harvest obtained, the bonus would be different every time. And these bonuses were the main pocket money of the members of Loki's clan. This money was needed to pay for personal equipment, and other expenses. Of course, the necessary expenses during the expedition were provided by the clan tribe. For example, this time, almost all the level 1 adventurers had received undying attribute weapons prepared by the clan, and the clan would also be responsible for paying for the equipment needed during the expedition. Of course, if there was no surplus after deducting the clan's operation expenses, or if there was too little left, then the bonus would naturally be gone. This time, Mr. Noah's gift card provided a lot of convenience, so we didn't have to worry about not being able to bring back the spoils. And we also successfully conquered the 59th floor, so there's a lot to be gained. Rifaya seemed to be looking forward to it. There should be a bonus, right? There is. Gareth walked over and directly announced. Although there are no statistics, and our expedition this time has caused a serious deficit in the clan, but even if we deduct this part, we still have a lot to gain. I did a rough calculation. After deducting the necessary expenses, even the basic members can get about a few 100,000 Varus. Revelia also gave an excellent piece of news. As for us who were chosen to be part of the expedition team, according to individual contribution, Rifaya, who has the lowest score, can get a bonus of 10 million Varus. That much? Rifaya was shocked. Then who has the highest score? Tiona quickly asked. How much did they get? The highest score is Draeger and Ace, Finn said. Although Draeger wasn't very active during the expedition, he saved Rifaya, and killed the cannon dragon on the 58th floor with Ace, which relieved a lot of the team's burden. He also killed the most threatening fairy of filth and enhanced our strength, so his contribution was the highest. Ace also helped us block the deadly super long chance spell, and killed the most monsters along the way. With that, Finn gave a figure. Based on rough estimation, Draeger and Ace will get a bonus of nearly 100 million Varus. Close to 100 million. Everyone present exclaimed in surprise. Even AIC widened her eyes in disbelief. No way. That's enough to buy the Tier 1 equipment of Hephaestus clan. Loki exclaimed. Draeger, AIC, you have to treat us this time. We'll talk about that after we get the bonus. Noah was unmoved, and extended his hand to Loki. "Lend me the money you have, and I'll return you double the bonus later." "You said it." Loki immediately removed his vigilance, and quickly took out his money pouch and stuffed it into Noah's hand. "Oh right, what are you going to do with the money? Is there anything you want to buy?" "I'll decide when we get to the streets." Noah accepted the money pouch with satisfaction, and then looked at Ace. "Girl, you're fine today, right?" Ace was slightly startled, and after a moment of hesitation, she nodded. Seeing this, Noah smiled faintly and said, "If that's the case, let's go on a date." When this sentence resounded throughout the entire corridor, all sound disappeared. Tiona, and Rafia were stunned. Finn, Riveria, and Gareth stood up in shock. Loki and Bert's expressions froze. The rest of the party members also widened their eyes. As for Ace, she blinked and didn't react for a long time. Chapter 2067. Silence. A deathly silence. At this moment, everyone present was looking at the calm Noah and the confused AIC with an extremely sluggish expression. Everyone had lost their ability to react. Under such circumstances, it was AIC's brain that worked smoothly. She tilted her head and repeated that word with uncertainty. "Date, date." "Yes, date," Noah said calmly as if he didn't realize that he had said something shocking. "Let's go shopping together, what do you think?" "Shopping?" AIC was still at a loss as she asked timidly. "Just me, and you?" "Yes." Noah smiled slightly. "What? You don't want to?" AIC shook her head almost reflexively. "Then it's fine." With that said, Noah reached out and held AIC's hand. "Then, let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, Noah held AIC's hand, who had yet to react and was at a loss. Under the countless dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, they ran out with clear footsteps. Give. Rocky stared blankly at the scene. After a long time, his lips trembled, his body trembled, and he screamed like a mad beast. "Stop right there." Amid his yelling, Rocky chased after them with a crazed look on his face. "Ah! Oh!" After half a second, Rafia and Bert let out frenzied yells and chased after them without hesitation. The rest of the members looked at each other. After a moment of silence, they suddenly burst into an uproar. "Tay! Tyin!" Tyin yelled in a flustered manner. Lil the bro is going on a date with AIC. A date? I know. I heard it. Tioni's voice also rose as he fell into an indescribable confusion and excitement. "Quick! Let's chase after them too." The Amazon sisters rushed out with extremely high emotions. As for the three leaders, Finn, Riveria, and Gareth, they were in a rare daze. After they reacted, they looked at each other. Really? Gareth seemed to be in disbelief. AIC is going on a date with a man. Riveria seemed to be completely unable to connect the words AIC and date together. She didn't know how to react. This is truly an unexpected development. Finn sighed with emotion and then fell silent. The three leaders looked at each other. Finally, they rushed out with great tacit understanding. Witnessing this scene, the members of Rocky's excitement were all in an uproar. Miss AIC is going on a date. Miss AIC, who is also known to be a warrior, is going on a date. Miss AIC is, who has only been interested in dungeons, is going on a date. What's more, with a newcomer. To talk to a newcomer. With an ordinary-looking newcomer who joined less than a month ago. The faces of the male and female members of Rocky's clan were all twisted. Although in the eyes of outsiders, AIC was a madman who only cared about fighting, in the eyes of her clan members, she was a recognized idol. She was beautiful, at least in appearance, very aloof. In fact, it was just natural, and did not show any emotion to any man, just not good at expressing feelings. Such a AIC was like a little princess in Rocky's clan. Now, a newcomer who had just joined less than a month dared to take their little princess on a date. That's crazy. Not allowed. Chase. Chase. A group of Rocky's clan members all went berserk. Thus, on this day, the base camp of Rocky's clan was empty, and no one stayed behind. Everyone rushed out of the base camp with a ferocious look, and even rushed directly into the streets, frightening all of Eulalie's clan members. The people who thought that Loki's clan, one of the strongest clans in the city, had come out in full force to attack a hostile clan were all frightened. They desperately prayed that the unlucky person was not them. As a result, even the guilds were alarmed, and each of them thought that Rocky's clan was going to attack a rival clan, and the whole of Eulalie was in chaos. Under such circumstances, even a certain beauty living on the top floor of the Tower of Babel was frightened. Could it be that one of the members in this expedition has reached LV7, and Rocky is going to make trouble for me? In fact, it was not only Freya who thought so, but even Otto thought so too. Otto went straight back to Freya's clan base, and gathered all the level 1 adventurers to stay in the base, ready to fight Rocky's clan at any time. But who would have thought that? The reason why Loki's clan came out in full force was because the little princess of the clan had been abducted. Kidnapped by Noah. If Freya knew about this, she would probably turn around and attack Rocky's clan instead. After all, her sweetheart was dating another girl, and this reason was enough to make the beauty, who had long been in love with Noah, go crazy with jealousy. The base camp of Rocky's clan was at the northernmost end of the city. Of course, among the 8 streets of Eulalie, the closest one to Rocky's clan base camp was undoubtedly the North Street. This street was different from the Northwest Street, where the guilds were located and often full of adventurers, so it was called the Adventurers Street. It was mainly a commercial street. Because it was also relatively close to the guilds, many related members of the guilds also lived here. In this area of the North Street, the clothing industry was quite famous. Because of the great difference in the value of clothing between the races, the clothing industry was quite popular in a city like Eulalie, which was called the center of the world. For example, the dwarfs, even if they were adults, because of their small size, their clothing could not be too big. For example, the dwarfs, although short, were broad and strong. In the human world, there was no suitable clothing at all without special customization. The elves preferred conservative clothing that was pure and did not expose too much skin. The Amazon was more open and naturally liked to expose a little. Because of the physical characteristics of the orcs, such as the part of the tail that needed to be exposed through pants and skirts, they also needed corresponding clothing. Coupled with the different customs and concepts between the races, the demand for clothing could not be said to be small. In view of this, the clothing industry naturally became popular. In the North Street, which was equivalent to a commercial street, the most shops were clothing stores that sold clothing. A large number of clothing stores were located at both ends of the North Street. On the road, although there were adventurers among the pedestrians coming and going, most of them had taken off their weapons and were leisurely strolling through the commercial street. Under such circumstances, Noah and AIC appeared. Isn't that the swordswoman? Who is the man next to her? They are holding hands. Is the swordswoman finally being seduced by someone? What does seduction mean? Who knows? Those gods often say that a woman was seduced by a man. It should be referring to the relationship between a man and a woman, right? I see. The surrounding pedestrians began to whisper to each other. For the strongest female swordsman in Eulalie, no one did not know her. Therefore, when AIC entered the North Street, she immediately attracted everyone's attention. Under the gaze of so many people, AIC seemed to be looking for a sense of security and involuntarily reached for her waist. However, the sword that was usually worn there was not brought out at all, so AIC touched nothing. Without the sword, AIC's combat power decreased by at least 70%. This made AIC's expression become a little weak, and she stuttered to open her mouth. Where are we going? Hearing AIC's words, Noah finally stopped for the first time. Turning his head, looking at AIC, Noah began to size her up. Her skin was as smooth as jade. Her figure was slim and slender. She wore a blue and white dress, but the back was boldly open and exposed to the air. Looking at AIC, Noah suddenly asked, "How long have you been wearing this set of clothes? Why haven't I seen you change it?" For a moment, AIC almost did not react. When she finally reacted, AIC was a little uneasy. Because, Loki said, if I don't wear it, then she will bite her tongue and commit suicide. That useless god. Chapter 2068. Today, as usual, every street was packed with people. Humans, elves, dwarves, orcs, dwarves, Amazons. Regardless of gender, age, or gender, all kinds of races were mixed together. The scene of people coming and going on the streets looked lively and spectacular, giving people a sense of vitality. Some people laughed and chatted while walking, some strolled around the stalls and shops, and some cursed at each other at the top of their lungs. It was really lively. Not long after, the commotion became even more intense. Rumble. Along with a series of rumbling sounds, a cloud of dust rose from the end of the street. A goddess, an elf, and a werewolf also rushed over. They looked around with ferocious expressions, and their eyes were bloodshot as they randomly grabbed people. That silly goose over there. Loki grabbed a human's shoulder and put his face in front of the other party as if he wanted to devour him. His face was distorted. Did you see my pretty AIC? Don't tell me you don't know who AIC is. That unlucky human's face turned green. While Loki went berserk, Bert and Leafia were doing the same thing. Bert grabbed a beast man by the collar and roared at him. Leafia had also changed from her usual meek, weak, and easily nervous appearance. She questioned a dwarf with a ghostly expression. The pedestrians were frightened by this scene and panicked. They ran away and closed the doors. Even the children were scared to tears. It was as if a monster had passed through the city, leaving people speechless. Finn, Riveria, Gareth, Tiona, and the others who had caught up from behind were shocked when they saw this scene. They hurriedly stepped forward and stopped the overgod and his companions from going berserk. Loki! Finn, calm down. Riveria, really, what are you doing? Gareth, making a ruckus on the street, the guild will be alerted. Tiona, don't give us trouble. Tiny, in a flurry, Finn and Gareth restrained Loki, Tiona and Tiny restrained Bert as usual, and even Riveria restrained Leafia and reprimanded her loudly. Let me go. Finn. Gareth. Rocky didn't settle down at all. Like a mischievous brat, he kicked his legs. Let me go find AIC. I want to save my AIC. Let go of me too. Stupid Amazon. Bert struggled. Who will let that bastard succeed? Lady Riveria. I beg you to let me go. Rifia cried out. I have to bring Miss A's back. Seeing Loki, Bert, and Rifia being provoked to such an extent, Finn and the others were speechless and had a headache. The same scene played out on the entire street. Some of the members of Loki's clan went berserk like Loki and the others. Some of the members of Loki's clan still retained a bit of rationality and hurriedly stepped forward to stop them. Suddenly, the entire street became chaotic because of the Loki clan's people. It was so noisy that the surrounding pedestrians looked at each other. What kind of show was going on this time? On the contrary, the male gods and goddesses who had heard the news and ran over to watch the show hid in the dark in disgust. Does Loki have rabies? You don't say, it really does look like it. The question is, can we, gods, get rabies? It's hard to say. Loki was a little abnormal to begin with. He had this tendency when he was in the heavens, right? In other words, even the children in Loki's clan have been infected with rabies. How pitiful, the gods who pursued entertainment were always looking for fun. They took this opportunity to express their nature of gloating incisively and vividly. In this regard, Loki really seemed to have rabies. He gritted his teeth and roared at the male gods and goddesses who were hiding. Get out of here! Oh my God! The group of gods was frightened just like that. It was unknown whether they were faking fear or excitement. They scattered and hid again. As for Loki, the anger in his heart was burning more and more fiercely. He ordered everyone in the most rude and unreasonable manner so far. All of you, go and find them. Even if you have to turn the whole of Eulalia upside down, you must find them. Yes. More than half of the clan members answered without hesitation. That's the end. The remaining half of the clan members hugged their heads and groaned bitterly. Meanwhile, Finn, Riveria, Gareth, Tiona, and Tiona all smiled bitterly. I say, Loki, why did you disturb them? Tiona said with some dissatisfaction. Because of some things during the expedition, AIC's mood wasn't very good. Isn't it good to let the little brother take her out for a walk? That's right. Tioni defended AIC. It's not like we're going to the buried city. Even if we go to the buried city, the little brother will be there. No matter how deep we go, AIC will be fine, right? However, the Amazon sisters' persuasion had the opposite effect. That's why it's dangerous. Loki yelled loudly. He actually took advantage of AIC's bad mood to raise her favorability. How can I just stand by and watch? That's right. Leafia uncharacteristically retorted the group of level 1 adventurers. Taking advantage of her is too despicable. Anyway, let go of him. Bert yelled angrily. This time, I'll definitely kick that bastard to death. Everyone was speechless when they saw that Loki, Leafia, and Bert had not calmed down at all and were instead getting more and more agitated. It's not that I don't understand your feelings, but I feel that even if you ruin AIC's date, it'll be futile. Finn narrowed his eyes. Anyway, AIC already has a good impression of that man, right? Why not take advantage of this opportunity to let AIC enjoy things outside of the buried city? I feel the same way, Gareth agreed. Even the mother, Riveria, didn't say anything. Don't stir up trouble. Who's the mother? Riveria frowned, but the corners of her mouth relaxed. However, if we leave AIC alone, that child will unknowingly enter the buried city and act rashly. Rather than that, it's better to let Noah get along with her. Perhaps AIC can really change. The words of the three leaders were not without reason. Unfortunately, Loki was no longer listening to them. Even if there's going to be a change, I'll be the one to change AIC. Loki made a big fuss. That little bastard wants to steal my AIC. No way, go and find her. The group of adventurers from Loki's clan were helpless against the main god who had completely lost his mind. In the end, they were forced to split up and look for her. However, the unbridled conversation of the people of Loki's clan was eavesdropped by the gods who were secretly hiding on the side. Did you hear that? Yes. What did you hear? Our swordswoman has been flirted with. In a relative silence, after a while, the gods raised their heads and showed a smile. That smile was emotionless. It must be said here that AIC was very popular among the gods. Not to mention the goddesses, among the male gods, AIC was even once advocated to be given the title of the god's wife. In the end, this shameful title was lost because Loki dragged out the gods who advocated it and beat them half to death. However, from this point alone, one could see how popular AIC was among the gods. At this moment, the male gods were all blinded by jealousy. At this moment, the goddesses were all filled with gossip. Find. 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 Coincidentally, all the gods squeezed out this word from their throats. Then, the commotion of the gods that caused a sensation in Eulalia began. Noah, who did not know that his actions had caused an uproar in Eulalia, was at this moment in a women's clothing store, looking at the women's clothing around him while waiting for something. Not long after, a somewhat awkward voice sounded. I'm done changing. Hearing this, Noah almost subconsciously looked over, and immediately his eyes lit up. Chapter 2069. It was only at this moment that Noah understood why AIC was treated like a little princess in Loki's family. It wasn't because AIC was of noble birth, nor was it because Loki doted on AIC. It was because AIC's condition was too good. If the usual AIC gave people the impression of a warrior with a threatening sword aura, then now she was a delicate young lady. The dress with a large opening at the back had disappeared and was replaced by a set of ordinary but very cute casual clothes. The upper part was a white blouse. The lower part was a golden pleated skirt. She wore a pair of high boots. Her waist-length golden hair hung down along her spine. The blonde girl walked out of the fitting room like this. Her face was slightly red and awkward, as if she was not used to her current outfit. At first glance, she looked like a young lady who had just walked out of her boudoir and was ignorant of the world. She only changed her clothes and did not even dress up, but the feeling AIC gave people had completely changed. Oh, Noah looked around AIC curiously, sizing her up and praising her. Not bad. Is it? AIC still seemed to be a little uncomfortable and looked embarrassed. I don't suit this kind of outfit. Who said so? I said it's very suitable. Noah immediately retorted and took a red handbag from the shelf at the side and hung it on one of AIC's shoulders. Moreover, this is more suitable. It was indeed more suitable. The young lady who used to only wear a sword on her waist was now wearing a small bag with a long strap on one shoulder. Her temperament had completely changed. Now, even if he told those who did not know that a swordswoman, that AIC was not an adventurer, but a weak young lady who needed protection, no one would doubt it. Very good, this is it. Noah was satisfied. He took out his money bag and threw a few gold coins on the counter at the side and said to the shop owner who was looking at AIC in a daze. It should be enough. I don't want the old one, I'll give it to you. Hang it in the shop and tell the customers that it was worn by the swordswoman and your shop will become famous. After saying that, Noah held AIC's hand and walked out of the shop. AIC didn't react at all. When Noah and AIC walked out of the shop, before they could say a word, a person on the street in front of them shouted. Found it. The voice was abrupt and sharp, causing the surrounding gazes to gather on Noah and AIC who walked out of the shop. The two of them were immediately startled. They raised their heads and looked towards the source of the voice. Then, they jumped in fright. On the street in front of them was a group of murderous people. Found the swordswoman. That's the gigolo that the core gods were talking about, right? Charge. Get the swordswoman. The gods said. Whoever gets the swordswoman will be rewarded with 1 million Varus. Oh. The group of people rushed over with red eyes, causing AIC to put her hand on her waist out of reflex. Of course, this time, he found nothing. At that moment, AIC was stunned. While AIC was stunned, Noah held AIC's hand and ran without hesitation. Seeing this, the crowd that was charging over started shouting again. They ran away. Chase after them. Although these people were not members of Loki's clan, they were all people who were willfully sent out by the red-eyed gods to search for Noah and AIC's traces. Therefore, among these people, there were members of almost every clan and they all chased after them excitedly. From the looks of it, in order to find Noah and AIC, the gods had put in a lot of effort. At this moment, AIC, who was being held by Noah, finally reacted. She kept up with them without blushing and panting, and spoke in surprise. What happened? Who knows? Noah did not turn his head and continued to run forward. Although I don't know what happened, but it must have something to do with Loki that caused this to happen. This sentence was inexplicably persuasive. At least, AIC believed it immediately. Then, AIC did not understand and said as she ran. Why do we have to run? Because, I have a place I want to bring you to. Noah said this and then turned his head. He did not slow down, but there was a faint smile on his face. I remember when I first came to our alley, I accidentally fell into the bathing place of the goddesses. As a result, I was chased all over the streets, including you. This time, accompany me to experience the feeling of being chased. Upon hearing this, AIC could not help but recall the incident at that time. At that time, AIC was still the swordswoman, who only had battle in her eyes. Other than the desire to become stronger, there was nothing else in her heart. But because of that, when she first met Noah, perhaps AIC was attracted to Noah. Because Noah was very powerful. A nameless person who had never even heard of, let alone seen, suddenly barged into AIC's life and fought with her. In the beginning, AIC did not take this matter to heart at all. She only followed the over-god's order to catch the peeping Tom. However, in the face of Aeth, who was known as the strongest swordswoman in Eulalia, not only did Noah display unimaginable strength, but it also got serious, unsheathed her sword, cast spells, and forced Aeth to retreat in a domineering manner and escape without a trace. After that, when she met Noah again, Noah took out a mysterious method that surprised AIC. It was as if there was no limit to him, and he showed a powerful strength again and again. That strength deeply attracted AIC. However, when AIC only paid attention to Noah's strength, Noah showed his gentle side in some unexpected places. In order to tell AIC what the true meaning of power was, Noah lent the golden-haired girl the noble phantasm, allowing the girl to kill the LV. Chapter 2070. As the whole of Eulalia fell into chaos due to the capriciousness of the gods, the sun began to set, allowing dusk to descend upon this world. The city wall that surrounded the whole of Eulalia emitted a strong sense of presence, its shadow gradually elongating under the light of the setting sun, giving off a heavy feeling. Under such circumstances, Noah held AIC's hand and jogged all the way out of the alley, arriving at the huge city wall. Noah and AIC, who had been chased by almost all of Eulalia's minions and had been on the run for an entire day, did not have a single drop of sweat on their faces. All right. Noah let go of AIC's hand and turned his arm. We won't be caught if we reach here, right? Ah. AIC let out a soft sound, looking at her hand that was let go, a sense of loss welled up in her heart. However, AIC was not good at expressing her feelings, so she naturally did not notice the slight fluctuation in her heart. Hence, AIC resisted the sense of loss and looked at the huge city wall in front of her, tilting her head in confusion. Why, are we here? Didn't I say? I'll bring you to a place. Noah pointed at the city wall in front of them. That place is just outside of Eulalia. Outside. AIC was stunned, somewhat unsure of herself as she spoke. We are going out. Yes. Noah nodded in a matter-of-fact manner. Is there a problem? Is there a problem? Of course there is. Eulalia was not a place that could be entered and exited as one wished. Because of the dungeon, it was the most prosperous city in the world. There was no comparison. That was why it was hailed as the center of the world. Only the underground city had magic stone products, which were circulated all over the world from here, allowing the guilds that monopolized the magic stone industry to become rich. The endless monsters in the underground city could provide a large amount of experience points to the adventurers, causing the adventurers in Eulalia to have a higher level than other places. In the world, Eulalia was a city that stood at the peak of the world. Because of this, it was very difficult for the adventurers and the main gods of the faction to leave this place. For example, if the adventurers who had trained in the dungeon were to leave Eulalia and become enemies with the dungeon, wouldn't Eulalia be raising a bunch of ingrates? Furthermore, only Eulalia could produce magic stone products. After the magic stone products were distributed to the entire world, the amount of wealth accumulated was simply unimaginable. In fact, many people had been drooling over this piece of fatty meat. In order to deal with the various existences from all over the world, Eulalia also needed to ensure that she had sufficient combat strength. Therefore, Eulalia was very strict with the management of people coming in and out. It would be fine if the person who wanted to leave the city was a normal person, but if it was a member of the clan tribe or even a lord god of the clan tribe who had received grace, there would be many procedures to go through. This was especially true for powerful spawns. They had to go through the guild's strict inspection and complicated procedures before they could leave. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to leave Olai as he pleased. Of course, it was almost impossible for an existence like AIC to leave Olai without permission. After all, AIC was already a level 1 adventurer at LV6. In this world where the highest level was LV7, and there was only one level 1 adventurer in the entire Orly world, her combat power was definitely at the top. In this case, the guild, which was extremely sensitive to the loss of combat strength, naturally would not easily let a level 1 adventurer like AIC leave. If there was an application and approval, then it would be fine. If there was no application and she left Olai without permission, not to mention the individual, even the clan tribe might be implicated and the entire faction would be punished. Noah had only left Olai twice in this world. The first time was when he went to the venue needed for the war game. That was a war game approved by the guild and the gods, so Noah could naturally leave the city without any effort. The other time was when Apollo's clan tribe was collectively driven out of Olai. Noah rushed ahead, left the city, and completely eliminated Apollo's clan tribe. At that time, Noah left without permission. Fortunately, he was not discovered, or he would definitely be punished. Now, Noah planned to leave Olai with AIC without the guild's permission, so how could there be no problem? However, when she was hesitating whether she should reject him or not, Noah smiled. "Don't worry, it won't be too long, and I won't kidnap you." With that said, Noah took out a pendant from his pocket. "Here." Noah handed the pendant to AIC. "Put this on." AIC's eyes looked up. It was a pendant with a pair of wings. After taking the pendant, AIC asked softly. This is a magic tool," Noah answered directly. "It contains magic that allows the wearer to fly. After you put it on, just silently say, 'Fly,' and it will be fine." This pendant, before Noah developed the means to fly on its own, was a tool that Noah relied on to fly at high altitudes. In the world of Fairy's Tale, during the Great Demon Battle, Noah lent it to Gadjalu. After Gadjalu returned it to Noah, Noah kept it on the shelf without a chance to use it. Now, Noah had a chance to take it out again. "Hurry up," Noah urged. "We have to go back before dark." Hearing this, AIC withdrew her curious gaze, nodded, put the necklace on her neck, and silently said, "Fly." The pendant worn on AIC's neck immediately emitted light. In the next moment, AIC's body floated up into the air, causing her emotionless face to twitch slightly. Her crystal-clear eyes were filled with astonishment. Although AIC could also obtain the ability to fly for a short period of time with the help of a wind spirit scamper, but that was only with the help of the wind to support her body. It was completely different from the feeling of her body becoming as light as a feather and being able to fly freely. AIC even felt that as long as she thought about it, her body would be able to fly as she pleased. So, how could AIC not be surprised? Looking at AIC like this, Noah smiled slightly and began to fluctuate magic power around his body. Suddenly, Noah's face gradually changed back to his original appearance. Sure enough, this appearance is more comfortable. Disguising my identity is too depressing. After stretching his waist, Noah's body began to float up into the air. He came to AIC's side and held her hand as he said this. AIC had a look of astonishment on her face. "Let's go." After saying this, Noah held AIC's hand and like a meteor, they soared into the sky and flew towards the horizon. The sun was setting in the west, and the night wind was about to arrive. The temperature in the air was also starting to drop, causing the cold wind to undulate back and forth in the air. AIC's flying speed was not very fast due to the help of a magic tool. However, with Noah leading her, her speed was greatly increased. The cold wind hit AIC's beautiful face, causing her to close her eyes slightly. However, after a while, Noah stopped flying and together with AIC, floated in the air. In the next second, AIC heard it. "We're here." Hearing this, AIC subconsciously opened her eyes. However, just as she opened her eyes, the scene in front of her made AIC's eyes widen. Her eyes were filled with amazement. At this moment, what appeared in front of AIC was a boundless field of flowers. A huge field of flowers sat under a cliff, facing a vast forest. Almost all of the flowers in the field were sunflowers. Under the illumination of the setting sun, the sunflower field emitted a dazzling radiance. If one were to look down from the sky, the scene would be like the stars that adorned the earth. It was profound and beautiful. The cold wind blew through the field of flowers, causing the sunflowers to sway. It was a beautiful sight. This. AIC looked at Noah with extreme surprise. Meeting AIC's gaze, Noah's lips curled up. "I found this place by accident. I didn't think much of it until today when I wanted to bring you out to relax." After saying this, Noah looked at the field of flowers and asked, "Do you like it here?" AIC nodded without any hesitation. Seeing this, Noah smiled again. "Then, let's dance." Chapter 2071. AIC didn't know how many times she was stunned. But, AIC couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at the smiling Noah in front of her, AIC tilted her head. Her voice was full of surprise as if she was extremely suspicious of something. "Dance?" "That's right, dance." Noah shrugged. "I want you to spend today like a normal girl, and not as the swordswoman who only cares about fighting and becoming stronger. So, I thought of a lot of plans and finally thought of this place." Saying this, Noah looked at the vast flower field below and said, "Don't you think that dancing in this place is a wonderful thing for a girl?" AIC opened her mouth slightly, her heart was in a dilemma, but in the end, it all twisted into this sentence. "I don't know how to dance." In other words, AIC had never danced before. Noah wasn't surprised at all. "It's okay." Noah held AIC's hand. "Let me teach you." After saying this, Noah gently pulled the girl into his arms, hugging AIC's slender waist, and let AIC put one of her hands on his shoulder. Being suddenly embraced by Noah, AIC's pretty face blushed as expected. Looking at AIC like this, Noah smiled as if he found it interesting. Then, he took out a small leather bag and threw it into the air. Bang! The leather bag suddenly exploded without any warning, sprinkling a burst of crystal-clear particles. Under the blowing of the breeze, the particles circled around Noah and AI like fluorescent lights. This is... AIC blinked her eyes and said the true form of the crystal-clear particles. Magic stones. To be exact, it should be powder made from magic stones. Noah corrected her. This kind of powder doesn't have much use. It's only used by adventurers in the dark underground. It can provide some light, so I'll make use of it and use it to set up the atmosphere. Of course, this wasn't enough. Noah took out a small box from his arms and gently opened it. The next moment, a beautiful piece of music was played from the box. AIC wasn't that surprised about the box that could play music. Because, it was a type of magic stone that could be used to record music, and after opening the box, it could be replayed. It was often used in banquets and balls. Loki used to fiddle with some of these magic stone products, but he didn't pay much attention to it. It was at that time that AIC knew about these magic stone products. Under AIC's gaze, Noah let go of the music box and let it fall to the ground. It was swallowed by the flower field below and disappeared without a trace. But because of this beautiful music, it was simply because of the beautiful flowers field beautiful, and the surrounding dazzling powder, it was like a fairy in a dream. Soon after, a man and a woman, who were suspended above the flower field and surrounded by resplendent powder, began to dance. It was a light dance. It was not like the formal social dance at a ball, nor was it like the overly exaggerated dance. It was just a dance that spun along with the music. Rather than being as light as a butterfly, it was better to say that it was as free as a bird. If anyone had ever seen a bird playing in a forest, they would have realized that this dance gave off that feeling. Noah and AIC held each other's hands tightly, and under the contrast of the star-like light particles and the sunflower field, they danced as if they were in a dream. Perhaps it was because of this, AIC's body was not as stiff as a beginner's. She used her LV-6 adventure's dexterity to the limit and danced under Noah's lead. The two pairs of deep, pitch-black eyes and crystal-clear eyes stared at each other while their bodies swayed with the wind. Sometimes they crossed. Sometimes they spun. Sometimes they chased. Sometimes they were close. The scene of a man and a woman dancing lightly and gracefully to the beautiful music and beautiful environment was believed to be the only thing that anyone who saw it would have. Breathtaking. If there was a so-called beauty in this world, then the scene in front of them was definitely worthy of this title. There was no doubt that it could make people intoxicated. Including the people involved. AIC let her body dance under Noah's lead, but her eyes were firmly fixed on Noah's body. At this moment, AIC forgot that she was chasing the powerful swordswoman. At this moment, AIC forgot that she was a warrior who was revered by people. Of course, AIC even forgot that the person in front of her was a tyrant who could defeat tens of thousands of soldiers, and that he was a taboo god slayer. Then, what was filling Alice's mind when she had almost forgotten everything? She could feel the warmth of the pair of broad hands that were holding her hand. What occupied his field of vision was a face with a faint smile. The gentleness in the other party's eyes when he looked at her. And the warmth that flowed in her heart that she could not control no matter how hard she tried. These feelings made AIC feel as if she had returned to her childhood in a daze. At that time, her father would touch her head. At that time, her mother would smile at her. When her father and mother treated her like this, she would also forget everything and only remember the warmth that flowed in her heart. At that time, when faced with this warmth, what was her first reaction? When the memories of her childhood flooded her mind, the blonde girl's emotionless face finally changed. Then, a voice drilled into AIC's ears. "I finally saw you smile from the bottom of your heart." This voice woke up AIC, who felt as if she was in a dream. AIC, who woke up, stared blankly at Noah, who was looking at her. After a while, she whispered with uncertainty. "Did I smile?" "Yes, you smiled." Noah did not stop his dancing body. Under the beautiful music, he spun in the air with AIC. As he spun, he suddenly smiled. "Your smile is more beautiful than I've ever seen it before." These words made AIC's heart feel an inconceivable feeling, and her face slightly blushed. Looking at AIC like this, Noah's smile did not diminish as he said this. "You have to smile more often in the future. That way, you will realize that it is not as difficult to become strong as you think." Holding AIC's hand, Noah lightly flew into the sky. Along with the light particles that reverberated around him, he danced in the air like a fairy. It doesn't matter if you are a sword concubine or a warrior concubine that people don't dare to flatter. Similarly, it doesn't matter what kind of blood flows in your body. You don't have to worry about it. AIC could only fly into the air under Noah's guidance. Her body was surrounded by dust that looked like starlight, reflecting her light golden hair that reached her waist. She listened to Noah's gentle and elegant words that were like a light breeze. "Don't act rashly by yourself. If you don't have enough strength, I can lend it to you. If no one acknowledges you, then I will also acknowledge you. Even if you are the only one left in the world, don't forget that no matter what, I will not disappear." After saying this, Noah once again embraced AIC's delicate body. Under AIC's absent-minded gaze, he revealed an insufferably arrogant expression to the girl in front of him. "Who asked me to not hate you?" This sentence penetrated AIC's heart. AIC knew that ever since she returned from the underground city, her emotions had not been right. It was to the extent that she needed to vent her emotions through battle on the way back. If Noah did not forcefully bring AIC out today, then AIC would definitely do what Riverius said and enter the underground city alone and continue to use battle to numb herself. This way, it would not take long for AIC to recover. However, just as Noah thought, a girl could only use battle to vent her emotions when she was in a bad mood. That was really sad. Therefore, Noah hoped to use this method to cheer AIC up. And Noah succeeded. At this moment, the darkness in AIC's heart was finally swept away. Feeling the warmth from Noah's embrace, AIC gently closed her eyes. Her face was more peaceful than ever. "Thank you," this sentence disappeared in the wind. A man and a woman were still dancing in the flower field. As the sun set and the curtain of night fell, the starry sky gradually became the background. Chapter 2072. Night began to fall. Eulalie, which had become chaotic, finally regained its peace. Because of the gods' rampage, the entire labyrinth city was more chaotic than a wet market. Many clan overgods willfully gave orders for their clan members to search for Noah and Ace. They even put in a lot of effort and prepared a bounty, which made the eyes of those greedy clan members turn red with greed. In the end, in order to find the target, the members of the major clan tribes almost turned the entire Eulalie upside down, causing a serious impact on the ordinary citizens. In the end, as expected, the guild was alarmed. Under the suppression of the guild, the clan tribes were all severely criticized and even fined by the guild, causing the main gods who had calmed down to wail. Among them was Loki's clan tribe. After all, Loki's clan tribe caused a much bigger ruckus than the other clans, and was also punished the most by the guild, paying hundreds of millions of Varys. Under such a heavy punishment, the rampaging clan tribes finally calmed down. After that, the commotion spread like wildfire. When the ordinary citizens who did not know the truth learned the truth of the matter, they were all speechless. So, the reason why Eulalia was in such a mess wasn't because of the monsters that came out of the buried city and launched a large-scale attack, nor was it because of the armies of the other cities and kingdoms. Was it because a group of gods wanted to ruin a couple's date? This kind of thing could only happen in a city like Eulalia, where there were many clans and entertainment gods everywhere. However, when they learned that one of the main characters of the date that the gods wanted to ruin was the swordswoman, many people were still shocked. The strongest female swordsman, known as the warrior concubine, actually went out on a date with the opposite sex. It was simply unbelievable. At least, when a certain white-haired young man who had been looking forward to seeing Aeth heard the news, he was shocked and then dejected for a whole day. He was comforted for a long time by the clan's young goddesses, dwarves, and Volperons, but there was no improvement. As for Loki, he was even more furious. After all, many people claimed to have witnessed Noah and Aeth holding hands intimately on the streets. While they were shopping, they even walked into a clothing store. Therefore, Loki's sabotage didn't succeed at all. The evil god drank several bottles of wine, but it didn't get rid of the depression in his heart. If possible, Rocky really wanted to rush into the streets and cause a ruckus. He wanted to find Noah and Aeth even if he had to die. However, because of this obsession, when the guild was alarmed, not only did Loki not stop, but he also became more and more ferocious, causing the enraged guild to ban all of Loki's family members from leaving the streets for the rest of the day. If they were to cause trouble again, not only would they be fined, but the guild would also confiscate the land of Loki's spawn. Now that they had been severely punished, Finn, Riveria, and Gareth naturally couldn't continue watching. Each of them completely suppressed the rampaging overgod and forcefully brought him back to their base. However, Rocky still refused to give up. Didn't the guild forbid him from leaving? Then let's wait in the base. I don't believe that those two won't come back. Therefore, even though it was dark, Loki still stayed in the courtyard, staring at the door. He looked like a wolf dog with a ferocious look. Similarly, Rafia and Bert were also staring at the door. A god, a wolf, and an elf stood side by side in a row, staring at the door in front of them while gnashing their teeth. Finn, Riveria, and Gareth had reason to believe that. Once Noah and Aeth returned, the three people in front of them would immediately pounce on them, bite the man to death, and then entangle the woman. The twin Amazons couldn't understand this. Seriously, what are Loki, Rafia, and Bert doing? Tiona said a little disinterestedly. Isn't it just because Aeth has a man? Why do they act like they have an enemy? To the three of them, Aeth having a man is equivalent to having an enemy. Tiona had a helpless look on his face. Moreover, that enemy must be that man. The Amazons could only look at each other helplessly. Along with Finn, Riveria, and Gareth, who also looked helpless, they stood by the side to prevent Loki, Rafia, and Bert from completely losing their minds and rushing out of the base. That would be troublesome. However, the commotion soon began again. Rafia, who had been staring at the door, was the first to notice. At the end of the street, a man and a woman were holding hands, chatting as they walked toward the base of the clan. Seeing this scene, Leafia's eyes widened and she cried out. They're back. That one sentence caused the windows on the towers in the base to suddenly open one after another. They're back. Are Draeger and Miss Aeth back? Where? In the midst of the commotion, members of Loki's clan poked their heads out of the windows, making the base of Loki's clan very lively. The corners of Finn, Riveria, Gareth, Tiona, and Tiona's eyes twitched. These guys had been hiding in their rooms and secretly watching this place. They didn't know their place at all. Therefore, everyone in Loki's clan saw the scene in front of them. It was the scene of Noah and AIC holding hands, chatting and laughing intimately as they walked over. Of course, AIC wasn't good at expressing her feelings. Although the two looked very close, they weren't chatting at all. However, the scene of them walking hand in hand still stimulated the nerves of many people. Bastard! Bert trembled all over. Even I haven't held AIC's hand. Loki and Rafia were also trembling all over, looking like they were about to explode. When Noah and AIC finally returned to the gate of the base and walked into the courtyard, the three of them finally exploded. Ah! 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 Loki, Bert, and Rafia let out beast-like roars at the same time and pounced in the direction of Noah and AIC. Noah and AIC seemed to have only noticed the existence of the crowd now. Looking at Loki, Bert, and Rafia pouncing like wolves and tigers, they were stunned on the spot. Don't even think about it. Just as Loki, Bert, and Rafia were about to pounce on Noah and AIC, Tiona moved as well. The Amazon sisters leaped up with great tacit understanding, as if they were imprinted in a mirror. They pounced like tigers and pounced on Loki, Bert, and Rafia first. Bang! Accompanied by a muffled sound, like a bowling ball, the group was knocked over and rolled on the ground. AIC blinked her eyes as she saw this scene with her own eyes, looking confused. The corner of Noah's mouth twitched. Noah, who had used magic to disguise his appearance, looked at his fellow clan members who were rolling on the ground and said speechlessly, "What are you guys up to?" Tiona pressed down on Loki, Bert, and Rafia who had gone berserk. They lay on top of the three and looked up at Noah and AIC with cute smiles. "It's nothing, don't mind it." "Tiona, did you have fun?" Tiona, after asking, without waiting for Noah's reply, Tiona's eyes lit up when they saw AIC's outfit. She wore a white blouse and a golden pleated skirt. She wore white high boots and a red handbag. AIC, who used to be a cold and warrior-like swordswoman, transformed into a delicate and pitiful young girl, which surprised the Amazon sisters. "So cute." "Tiona, not bad at all." Tiona, under the Amazon sisters' exclamations, everyone present also noticed AIC's new look, and their eyes lit up. The outfit that changed her previous temperament even touched Loki's clan members who saw AIC as a little princess. "I didn't expect." Finn was surprised. AIC actually wore this kind of outfit. "Ah, I was shocked too." Riveria's lips curled up slightly. "But, it's not bad." "That's right." Gareth laughed out loud. "This is what a real girl should look like." The entire Loki clan was in an uproar for the umpteenth time today. Chapter 2073. It was only then that AIC remembered how she was dressed. Under the surprised gazes of her fellow clan members, AIC's pretty face gradually became rosy, and finally, she hid behind Noah in embarrassment. At this moment, everyone in Loki's clan suffered an inexplicable shock. AIC didn't know that her previous image of a swordswoman had been subverted, and she had become a delicate and pitiful young lady. Even if it didn't reach the level of committing a crime, for those who were familiar with AIC, it still made their hearts tremble. At least, Rafia and Bert's faces were flushed red. Even Loki's lips trembled, and after a while, he cried out. "AIC is really too cute." That's right. If one were to use words to describe AIC now, the word cute could only be used to describe her. Therefore, everyone's eyes began to shine, which made AIC feel more and more ashamed. She shrank her body even smaller, trying to hide herself behind Noah. Looking at AIC like this, Noah could only laugh. He didn't expect this girl to be so lethal when she was embarrassed. However, Noah could feel that AIC's unstable emotions had calmed down a lot. This made Noah feel somewhat gratified. At least he didn't do so much for nothing. This gratification was immediately expressed on Noah's face. Looking at the gratified smile on Noah's face, and then looking at AIC, who shrank her body and hid behind Noah like a little bird, some people were speechless. Aw. I don't care anymore. Loki didn't know where he got the strength from, but he fiercely broke free from the suppression of the two level 1 adventurers, Tyin and Tyin. He sprang up, and with a bang, he forcefully knocked Noah away. Then, Loki tightly grasped AIC's shoulder and shouted. Since what's done can't be undone, it's useless to pursue it. But, AIC, you have to accompany me on a date tomorrow. While saying this, Loki held AIC's shoulder tightly and stared straight at her. He was panting heavily and his eyes were glowing with lust. He looked like a pervert. Faced with such an over-god, Aeth shuddered and spoke almost instinctively. No. After saying that, AIC grabbed Rocky's hand and twisted it forcefully. Rocky's entire body was pinned to the ground. Bang! Goo! Muffled sounds and groans rang out at the same time. Well done, Loki gave him a thumbs up with trembling hands, and then he kept his face on the ground. His hand dropped, and there was no movement. This scene caused the members of the Loki clan to shudder. Tiona and Tyogni murmured to each other. As expected of AIC, even if she changes her image, it doesn't mean she'll become the soft girl Loki talked about. Not only Tiona and Tyogni, but the others also understood this point. Therefore, even Leafia and Bert shut their mouths and didn't dare to make a fuss anymore. However, the two of them still looked at Noah with fierce gazes, as if they wanted to swallow Noah whole. It could be said that they had a deep grudge. Under such gazes, Noah spread out his hands indifferently and said so. All right, the farce is over. It's time to leave. With that, Noah waved his hand and immediately walked in the direction of the mansion. Looking at Noah, who was about to walk to the mansion, IC, who had pinned Rocky to the ground, couldn't help but stand up and grab Noah's clothes. Noah was stunned and turned his head in confusion. Oh. Everyone in the Loki clan was also stunned and looked at AIC one after another. Under everyone's gaze, AIC seemed to only have Noah in her eyes. She spoke in a low voice. In the future, will you still accompany me on dates? This one sentence made everyone's hearts twitch and their mouths open into an O shape. Only Noah met AIC's expectant and uneasy gaze and suddenly smiled after a while. As long as you're willing. Hearing this, the expectant and uneasy gaze in AIC's eyes disappeared. In the next moment, a smile appeared on AIC's beautiful face. It was an extremely pure and innocent smile without a trace of falsehood. It was not like before, where there were only slight changes. Instead, it was like a blooming flower, a cheerful and open-minded smile. Noah had seen this smile at the end of his dance with AIC above the sunflower field. The smile that Noah said was more beautiful than ever before was exactly the same as the one in front of him. Anyone who knew AIC would not be willing to believe that the girl who lacked facial expressions could have such a bright smile. Therefore, everyone present, including Finn, Riveria, Gareth, Tiona, Tiny, Bert, Rafia, and even Loki, who had raised his head, was stunned. Only Noah could not help but smile. He reached out his hand and touched AIC's head. Noah believed that this smile must be the one that AIC had before she lost her parents and feelings. If he could bring back this smile, then everything he did today would be worth it. What he needed to do in the future was to try to make this clumsy and cute girl smile like today. In that way, sooner or later, the swordswoman, who only wanted to fight and become stronger in everyone's eyes, would completely transform. She had become a lovable and pampered young lady. In this magnificent and warm day, the distance between Noah and AIC was more than one step closer. Just as Noah and AIC returned to the headquarters of Loki's family, and Eulali's day of uproar came to an end, on the top floor of Babel, the beautiful goddess listened to the report from her most loyal subordinate and swayed the red wine in the glass in her hand expressionlessly. "Is it the swordswoman again?" Freya said with a calm face. "Loki's favorite child. Has she been too close to the child I love recently? Does Lady Freya think that the person who caused the uproar with AIC Wallenstein today is Noah Doria?" Otter asked in a low voice. "According to the information I found out, the person who caused the uproar with AIC Wallenstein today is not Noah Doria, but a new member of Loki's family called Draegr. A new member can make the swordswoman willingly follow him everywhere." "I don't think so." Freya showed a beautiful smile. "Moreover, if I was here, I could clearly see that the child has been running around the city, and even Eulali ran out in the end, and the swordswoman was by his side at that time." "Is that so?" Otter was silent for a moment and then said. "In other words, the new member called Draegr is actually the man that Lady Freya likes. There is no other possibility." Freya narrowed her eyes and cast her gaze in a direction. That was the direction of Loki's family's headquarters. At this time, in that direction, in the headquarters of Loki's family, a soul that was as dazzling and hot as the sun was emitting a light that could burn Freya's eyes, causing her beautiful eyes to ache faintly. However, this pain not only did not make Freya look away, but also made this beautiful goddess, who had some stubborn requirements for the soul's light, stare at it with infatuation and intoxication. Looking at the place where the dazzling soul's light was, Freya spoke as if she was in a dream. "That child has a lot of magical means. Even if he can change his appearance and sneak into Loki's family, it is not strange at all. Moreover, he has been with the swordswoman all day today, and you brought the report of the swordswoman and a new member of Loki's family going out together on the streets. This proves that the child is the so-called Draegr." Freya raised the glass in her hand and took a sip of red wine, her eyes sparkling. "He actually went out on a date with another girl. I'm a little jealous, the man I love the most." Hearing Freya's infatuated words, Otter once again fell into silence, not knowing what he was thinking. At this time, Freya put the glass in her hand on the counter, turned around, and looked at Otter. Meeting the over-god's gaze, Otter almost instantly understood what she was thinking. Thus, Otter spoke directly. "I will gather all the members tonight." Freya smiled. "You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.